It is the lead guitar player of the garage girl band debuting from Meta Rock Girls Mission. It is GBG01 Fret Beat, with a kit of Fight Boost, Beam Sword, Fire, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Generator, which applies the heater effect to self when charging Metaforce. Now, pretty much like a lot of popular rock bands or phrases like to use, let's amp it up or let's heat it up, Fret Beat is certainly no exception. Fight Boost is a support-based skill that buffs the melee damage, essentially melee damage and likelihood of landing melee hits to herself and across the board for all allies, so already buffs her relatively high damage potential for melee. Beam Sword, of course, is essentially a melee variant of Hyper Beam, where it has the damage bonus of Beam, which is ×2 damage bonus at 30% charge, and ×3 bonus at 100% charge, with pierce damage on top of that. And then Left Arm of Fire is a simple DOT attack that applies a damage over time ailment to the enemy, which allows it to very easily whittle down their HP over time as the fight goes on. So the longer the fight goes on, the easier it is to essentially pick off parts or even break for an instant kill or a death blow, because their HP is already so low that AoE damage or carryover pierce damage will very quickly finish the job. So across the board, I would have to rate Fret Beat by herself at a pretty solid 5 out of 10. She has a pretty decent kit across the board for what she offers, even if it isn't all that powerful, all that handy at first glance. Of course, her main weapon of choice will be the Beam Sword, but the issue with her particular kit is the fact that it requires a Metaforce charge in order to use efficiently. So if you are going to use Fret Beat at all, it would be best recommended that you either pair her off with someone who can give Metaforce, such as like Charge Plant, or make use of her with a Hunter or Sniper Nature Metal and then land some pretty lucky hits in order to actually get a charge going. But because of the lack of Metaforce sustain, this is the reason why I do have to rate her relatively low, given the fact that Fire also as well isn't really a super viable or very handy ailment in this case that you'd see on a lot of teams. As mixed parts, however, I would have to rate her much higher at a 7 out of 10 for the reasons stated above. If you can make use of Beam Sword on a Metaforce sustained team, such as, say, Deer Stage's Head with full charge, or someone else on the team that gives Charge Plant for passive Metaforce bonus, you can absolutely rip and tear and shred the cords with that Beam Sword on any particular female team that has a dedicated melee nuker. And for the sake of mentioning it, one other reason that Fret Beat does rank relatively high, but more so balanced in this case, which kind of evens out her high points and her low points, is the fact that she also is one of the only melee female Beam Swords currently in the game. So for this reason alone, she highly is very much so worth going after to farm, just for the sake of having it for dedicated mono female teams or dedicated nukers for females that need that high damage output.